Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, I want to take you back 8 years ago. This past weekend marked the anniversary of the worst tornado outbreak in U.S. history. Over the time period of April 25th to the 20th, we saw 350 reports of tornadoes, many of which were down here in Dixie Alley. But these storms did move their way through the Carolinas, and I will never forget this map back on April 27th, 2011, where we saw nearly 1,000 reports of severe weather, many of them starting from Mississippi, Alabama, going right through the Carolinas. This was a rough weekend indeed several years ago back in 2011. Well, we have a much different pattern right now. Just looking at the last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation here, so basically this kind of describes last weekend. We saw the system move out on Friday, bringing in the widely scattered showers and thunderstorms in through the area. And again, some showers left over on Saturday here in the Carolinas. But what I really want to get into in this video is right here. You see, as we progress throughout this week, this is what the flow of the atmosphere at about a mile above our heads is going to look like through much of the week. It features even higher than that up in the jet stream, a deeper trough that's sitting over parts of central Canada. So multiple little short waves are coming around this trough, and they're going to excite several weather systems. They're going to team up with other trough features kind of sneaking out of parts of Southern California or the Intermountain West coming across this area. And because of the dominance of higher atmospheric pressure sitting over the Carolinas, the moisture feed is coming right out of the Gulf of Mexico and it's going to get lined up on this boundary. So what does all of this mean? This means we're going to go into a week where all of the severe weather, all of the heavy rainfall is going to be focused inside of a corridor right in through here, with systems kind of keep sneaking through the north central plains as well. But because of that large H I just drew there right over the Carolinas, this upcoming week is going to be one that is really going to be quite dry. Now take a look at it. Here's the last 30 days in terms of percent of normal precipitation. And while we have seen in the Carolinas our fair share of some very, very big thunderstorms bringing in a lot of severe weather, the pattern that's getting set up here with a ridge that's going to be established here, look at this. This is just your next 5 days of total accumulated precipitation over here on the right. And we can see that it is going to be warm, it's going to be sunny, unless you are right in through here. The Carolinas, you got a great week that's coming up. Take a look at what the temperatures are doing. This is just through the next 5 days. We see that overall, the ridging that's happening over the southeast is going to be keeping things much warmer than average. I'm expecting to see a lot of highs in the 80s, even approaching 90 at times. Meanwhile, the north central plains, we're dealing with some bitterly cold air, which is going to continue to prevent much of the country from planting. In addition to that rainfall, much of the country from planting corn and soybeans and other crops through the center part of the United States. But it is certainly going to be warm there in the southeast and warm there in the Carolinas. What about stretching this out to the 6 to 10 day forecast? We continue to see this same pattern. See it right here? So the warm stretch is got some legs on it. It's going to last for a while. And if we stretch this out just into week 2, that's the map that's over there on the right, we in general don't break down this pattern, which is why we're going to continue to see this section of the country getting lit up with a lot of strong to severe storms. But overall, the pattern is going to be near average or to drier than average, even as we get into week 2 for the Carolinas. So with that kind of as our backdrop, let's dig on into this. As we go through the day on Monday over to Tuesday and Wednesday, you can see exactly where the really nasty weather is going to be. Each of these 3 days, it's set up on that boundary. It's avoiding the Carolinas because of high pressure that is dominating throughout much of this week. Even as I play forward the high resolution model, you ready? This just takes us all the way through the beginning of Wednesday. Maybe there's some widely scattered showers in and around the Carolinas, but nothing. I mean, it's just a dry pattern. Higher atmospheric pressure firmly in control here, getting everything back to our west, into the Midwest, into the southern plains. When we look at this overall pattern, watch, you're going to see the ridge develop here, and you're going to see troughing in this area and a ridge that's going to sit over parts of Alaska. Now, I'm just going to play it. We don't have to take too much time diagnosing this one. Look at the ridging over the southeast. It just really hangs on as we really press this all the way out into the middle of May. That particular pattern there is one that it's just interesting to see here. It's really kind of stuck. It may not be until the weekend before we get a chance at seeing some more widespread precipitation, but the ridge reestablishes next week for May 8th, 9th, 10th. And you can see here. Now, this pattern, just to let you know, is a storm chaser's dream. When we see a trough sitting in through here and a ridge over the southeast, this sets up this section of the country to have not only a lot of heavy rain, but a lot of severe weather. And the question is, how long is that going to last? We'll answer that question in a few minutes. Now watch this. I'm going to play the European model out for us. You just keep your eye over here on the Carolinas as I press play. And as we just go through here, watch it again. Ready? It may not be. I got this stretched out to Thursday, Friday. It may not be until the weekend that we finally get something over here in terms of some widely scattered showers and storms. And then getting into early next week, the models are hinting at a system coming through the next weekend that's going to be coming through part of the mid-Atlantic, and we'll be dragging a front down here through the Carolinas. But I'm talking about next weekend here. This is quite a ways out. And so therefore, because of the dominance of this redeveloping upper level ridge over the southeast, things are going to continue to remain quite dry. So take a look at it. Here is the next 7 days according to the European model. Over here on the right is the GFS. All the action is right in through here. And you can see that overall, we're keeping much of the southeast, much of the Carolinas dry. The European model has this system. Again, I told you about coming through next. The U.S. model has honed in on a system coming in next weekend that might be bringing in some precip. But until then, it's a really dry pattern setting up. Overall, we look at the national blended model. This takes us out just through the next 10 days. We continue to see a drier pattern really setting up for the southeastern part of the United States, while the midsection of the country is getting absolutely soaked. Taking this all the way out to 15 days, over here on the left, I have the European model. Over here on the right, I have the U.S. model called the GFS. Both of them have all their attention focused right here in the middle section of the country with drier conditions overall in the southeast and in the Carolinas. So we're going to be picking up some heat with some temperatures getting the upper 80s, maybe even some lower 90s at times, and therefore rapid accumulation of growing degree day units and overall a drier picture. And my concern about this is that when you come down right in through this area and through here, the U.S. drought model, the latest update, is still showing that particular region dealing with abnormally dry conditions that may continue to get worse as we progress through the next week to 10 days here. So that's kind of the pattern set up, and that's our main story. Will this last throughout May? Well, what I'm pulling up here over on the left is the Madden-Julian oscillation. We like to watch a phase diagram to tell us what it's doing. So right now it came out of phase 2, went quickly through phase 3, and is going over into phases 4, 5, and 6. Now, what's important about these phases, 4, 5, and 6, and even as it rounds the corner, comes back over to 8, is that tends to reinforce this pattern. And that's why we continue to see this section of the country picking up on the wetter pattern, whereas we see the southeast possibly being dry. Now, this is just one piece that's going into this longer range forecast, but the map I just drew for you over here on the right, this takes us all the way out to the 3rd week of May. So this goes through the 25th of May. And so there's concern that the Central Plains continue to stay active, but the southeast sees a whole lot more ridging. We'll get a brand new long range update from several of our models coming out on the 5th. So my next update to the Carolinas here is going to feature that longer range outlook. I'm looking forward to kind of giving you that information. I just want to finish by giving you a quick global view of everything. Right now, the safrinha crops that are grown in Brazil are doing very well. This is cotton and corn primarily. So we're only getting positive news out of Brazil. Some of the numbers coming out of Argentina as well for their full season crops look pretty good there too. Elsewhere around the world, while much of Western Europe here is going dry, we do have some really cold air coming into Northern Europe as a deeper trough sits into this area. So we're talking about over here by Ukraine, Poland, parts of the Russian wheat belt, cold pattern, but also a wetter one. Down here, we just had a major tropical cyclone make landfall in Mozambique, the second one this year, causing major devastation. And because of the current El Nino and the Madden-Julian oscillation, we are keeping places over here in the islands north of Australia there quite wet. And finally, I just want to make you aware, we do have a tropical system that is heading toward the eastern Indian coast, and it's going to be producing quite a bit of flooding action there. So I just want to give you a quick global roundup here of what we're watching across the planet. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We hope you look forward to our next ag forecast coming out next week. In the meantime, enjoy a very warm and dry week ahead. Thank you.